All right, welcome back. This is the second page of the practice test or the study guide. If you want to, I just jotted down some notes over here. You can pause at any time to copy these down. So remember, we now are going into division, or basically it's the same thing as times or multiplication, where if you have one negative, you're going to get a negative answer. So right off the bat on number 14, I'm going to have a negative answer. So just go ahead and put the negative mark, and then just type in the calculator 48 divided by 6, and you'll get a negative 8. All right, so fractions, we have to do probably a lot of review on fractions. So what you do is the first fraction, you just leave it the same, and then we use what we call the reciprocal of the second piece. So watch, I'm just going to rewrite it so you'll see that the 7 over 3 stays the same. I'm going to take the reciprocal. That means I'm going to take this 6 and I'm going to put it on the top, and I'm going to put it over the 5. So you see how I just flipped that around? And then instead of divide, I'm going to make that times. Because you really can't, you're not allowed to divide fractions. You can multiply using their reciprocals, or if you flip them. Now, at this point, you can do two things. You can just multiply straight across. 7 times 6 is 42. And then you can go 3 times 5 is 15. And this would be an okay answer. It's not reduced. To reduce it, you would have to divide both the top and the bottom by a 3. And that would then change it to 14 over 5. This is the best out of these two answers, right? Okay, so now we have two problems that look like their answers should both be 0. But as you saw at the beginning of the first video where I showed all the answers, this one was actually 0. And this one was called undefined. Well, you can have 0. Right? That's like having nothing in your pocket, and you can divide. So if you have nothing in your pocket, you can divide that up and give nothing to everyone else. This one says, hey, can you take this number and divide it by the 0? And you cannot. You can't have the 0 becoming second, or if you ever see 0 on the bottom of a fraction, this is also an undefined. So you can't have that either. All right, so then we come to number 18, where we're simplifying this exponent. And remember, exponents mean that you repeat the 8. You go 8 times 8 times 8. You see how I wrote the large number as many times as the small one repeats? Plug that into a calculator, and that's where we got 512 on the answer key. Now, on 19, what it's trying to show you is you have a negative 2. But if there's no parentheses, that 4 right here only sticks to the 2. So watch what I do. That negative sign is going to stay right there. But I'm going to repeat the 2 once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. You see how you repeated just the number 2, not the negative sign? To repeat the negative sign, they would have had to have put it inside parentheses, but they did not. So again, up here, if you have one negative, it's going to make the whole answer negative. So this is going to be a negative. Type in the calculator 2 times 2, which is 4. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. Alright, so then we have our square roots. And remember, a square root is any number that gets multiplied by itself. So if you look at 144, and I gave you that list, is 144 is the number 12. And if you go 12 times 12, you get 144. That's what makes a square root so special. It's made by the same number being multiplied twice. So even if you see a fraction, you don't get stressed out. Just what number, if you multiply it by itself, will make 4. Well, that's a 2, right? 2 times 2. And then the 25 is 5 times 5. And then down here, same trick. What number makes the 25? 5. And what number makes 49? 7 times 7. All right, so you see how they're just the same number be repeating twice. All right, now we have to get down to our, you have to know your properties a little bit. And we have the two biggest properties is our commutative. I'm just going to say that's the abbreviation, or we have the associative. And that's the abbreviation. Now, commutative means you change the order. So let's take a look at the order. So we first have a 7, an S, and a T. If it's in the same order, it can't be commutative. So they have 7, S, and T. See how they're still in the exact same order? So it can't be the commutative property. It is going to end up being the associative property. And the other reason you can tell is if you look inside the parentheses. On this, the S and the 7 are together. But if you look over here, the S is now with the T. Is what if they change what's inside the parentheses, if they swap something out of the parentheses, then it is the associative property. Okay, so on 24, we get to the harder things of this chapter. It puts everything together that we were learning, and this is order of operations. So quickly, I put down over here, PEMDAS, just as a reminder. I have parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division, they're together, and then addition and subtraction are together. So I look at this problem right here, and I see two things. I see parentheses around the 3, and then I see these are called brackets, but they're all grouping symbols. So that basically means the brackets mean look at me, look right here, which means ignore this stuff. So I'm going to, while everything I ignore, I'm just going to copy it down exactly how it looks. And then I'm going to look inside my parentheses. Now I look in here and I see a minus sign, but then I also see exponents. So even within inside this parentheses, or this grouping or brackets, I have two things going on. I have a 6 being takeaway, and then I have this 3. Well, if you take a look, exponents are still stronger or more powerful than addition or subtraction. So I'm not going to do this minus first. I'm going to keep the 6 right there, keep my minus sign. And remember, 3 squared doesn't mean 3 times 2. It means 3 times 3, and you get 9. So I technically still have these brackets or these parentheses, and I want to get rid of them. So again, I'm not going to be touching these two numbers, so I'm going to leave the 13 plus 5 alone. I might change the brackets to parentheses. It just means they're being grouped together. But in here I have my 6 take away 9. Now remember, on the side note, if you have 6 take away 9, you want to add the opposite, right? Remember that? So there's my 6, that stays the same. Add, so make that plus. The opposite, well, that was a positive 9, make it a negative 9. So when you do this, different teams, different signs, that's going to be a takeaway. You're going to get a negative 3. So that's going to be very, very important that that's a negative 3. So I'm going to put my negative 3 right here. Or just remember, if they ever put the small number first, that your answer is going to be a negative. Now, the reason I included the brackets, because remember, when the 5 is this close to parentheses or brackets, it means multiplication. So this means 5 times negative 3, and so this is what I have left. 13 plus 5 times negative 3. Well, my parentheses, I basically don't have any exponents. I really don't have parentheses. This is just showing me that this is multiplication. So I got to do my multiplication first. So here's my next part. So I'm going to go 5 times negative 3, and I'm going to get a negative 15. And then I'm going to take that, and because of the commutative property, I'm just going to say plus 13. And then my final answer, again, these are not the same sign. These are different signs. I'm going to take away, and the 15 has more players. So my final answer is negative 2. Right? All right, so on the next one, 25. Again, look for that order. Look for PEMDAS. Do I have parentheses? I do have parentheses. As soon as you see that, copy down everything else. This is my division. Put minus. And then 1 take away 7. Well, that's the small number is first. So remember, my clue is do take away. You're going to get 6. But it's going to be a negative 6. Or if you add the opposite, 1 plus a negative 7, so you get a negative 6. So make sure, again, I put the negative 6 inside. I kept them inside the parentheses. And now I'm going to go, so my parentheses are done. What's next? Exponents. Do I have exponents? I do. I have 3 to the 4th. You just type that into your calculator, and you'll get an 81. So now I have an 81 plus a 9 divided by 3 minus this negative 6. So don't go 81 plus 9. You should, again, go through PEMDAS. So I had parentheses. They're pretty much gone. My exponents are gone. I did. Do I have any multiplication or division? Well, I have division. So I have 9 divided by 3. So I'm going to move this up over here. So I'm going to keep the 81. I'm going to do my division. 9 divided by 3 is going to give me a 3. So I'm going to keep my plus sign. Keep your minus sign. You see how I'm copying down everything same, and then negative 6. Now, parentheses gone, exponents gone, no multiplication, no division. I have addition and subtraction. So we're going to add, and remember I got the arrow from left to right. So I'm going to start over here. So I'm going to go 81 plus 3 and get an 84. Then I have my minus negative 6. And remember, if you see minus, always means add. So I'm going to change that into an add sign. The opposite, what's the opposite of negative 6? Positive. And then that will give me 84 plus 6 will give me a 90. Okay, now here we have, we switch gears and we go to like terms. So what you're looking for is the exact same variable. So I'm going to use a square, and I get a square. I'm going to look for x2s. Nope, that's a z. Here's an x2. See how I box the sign in front of it and any other x2s? Yep, right here. So as soon as I run out, this is what I can add together. So I have to have x2s in my answer. So I have a 3 and a positive 2 and a positive 6. So I can add them all up. 3 plus 2 is 5. 5 plus 6 is 11. What were they? x2s. And then I'm going to change my shape. I'm going to go to a circle, and I found the z variable, and I'm going to look for another z variable again, and that's it. So now I have a 9z and a 5z. I'm going to add them up and get a 14z, right? So use the trick of using the boxes. So here, again, I'm going to start off with a square. I'm looking for A3s. A lot of A3s on this one. But now remember, be careful, that's a negative, right? I know it looks like a minus sign. So what I like to do is that's positive, so I'm going to add those up. That's going to make a 7, and that's a negative though, so that's going to take away. So I'm going to get 2A3, and then I have a 9t and a negative 6t. They're opposite signs, so it's going to be a 3t, and the 9's bigger, so it's going to be plus. All right, so that's the end of this video. Have a mathtastic time.